Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. We look at the SGI graph from the previous time frame. If you recall from the previous update, we had a critical convergence on the 7th and on the 8th when Earth aligned with Venus, with Neptune and also with Saturn. This is a near quadruple conjunction, and we had this critical geometry here when Earth aligned with the Sun and Mercury at the same time. And if we look at the seismic activity that we had in this time frame, we see with the lunar peaks on the 4th and also on the 9th and on the 13th, each of these lunar peaks was followed by magnitude 6 earthquakes. The strongest so far was 6.4 at the Red Islands, Aleutian Islands on the 4th. We see Earth in the quadruple conjunction here on the 7th and 8th, and we see the strongest seismic burst, all borderline 6 magnitude earthquakes on the 8th, around the 8th of March. And there was a notable 5.5 in Greece as well. Then Earth aligned with Uranus on the 9th, and we see stronger earthquakes, borderline 6, including deep magnitude 6 earthquakes in southern Italy. Quite rare. It was really deep, around 380 kilometers deep. Then we had the planetary geometry, primarily with Mercury. We see some seismic increase, 5.5 at the Kermadec Islands. And then with the Moon in alignment with Jupiter, there's another magnitude 6 earthquake. So look at the lunar conjunctions here on the 4th, on the 9th and on the 13th. They all coincided with magnitude 6 earthquakes. And like I said in the previous update, the Moon is an important seismic modulator. Very obvious. So again, no larger earthquakes, no 6.5 and larger, and this has been the trend since early January. So far we only had one magnitude 7.1 earthquake, this is 6.5 plus earthquakes, and that was on the 22nd of February. And no major earthquakes since then. So this has really been a trend, and we see this in this time frame as well. Magnitude 6.4, that's the strongest earthquake in this entire time frame. Not sure how long this trend will continue. If we look at what happened here in Italy, this was the magnitude 6 earthquake deep below southern Italy in the Mediterranean Sea, Naples. And this is pretty rare because we don't see this seismic activity very often. It's pretty deep as well. This is not directly volcanic related. You might think that because it's near Naples, there's the Vesuvius and there's Campi Flegrei, but it is directly related to subduction process. We have the Calabrian Arc south of Italy, and in the Mediterranean Sea there's the geometry of that Calabrian Arc, and from time to time deep earthquakes occur here. And this is the latest, and if you look at history, I looked up since 1900 when recording of earthquakes began. The yellow dot here, that's the most recent one, 6.0, very deep near Naples. But all the red dots, there's about a dozen of them. They are the deep earthquakes, about 250 kilometers to 500 kilometers deep. There are not many of them. This is since 1900, mind you. The northernmost one is even north of Naples. This is how far north it can go. The white dots, they are really the shallow earthquakes. They are the stronger earthquakes, including magnitude 7 here, I think around 1908 in Messina. But also here on land, there can be magnitude 6 earthquakes. The strongest that occurred here was 6.9. These are the more destructive earthquakes. So we have this 6 here, deep below Naples, sort of. It's not directly volcanic related, but we do know when we have subduction process, like here along the Calabrian Arc, there's also volcanic activity because the slab going down into the asthenosphere goes into the magma. There's magma buildup, and at one point, when the pressure becomes too much, then we have volcanic activity. That's a process, that's a cycle. So this is not directly volcanic related. It's not like magma intrusion. It's first and foremost, this is the result of subduction process. Okay, what we saw in the Mediterranean, the magnitude 6 in Italy, was part of some stronger seismic activity throughout the region from Italy to Greece and Turkey all the way up to the Black Sea. The magnitude 6 in Italy, 5.5 in Greece, and also 5.1 in Greece. And then we had a 5-pointer in Western Turkey and a 5.3 in Northern Turkey, Central Turkey near the Black Sea. This is because of the Arabian plate pushing against the Anatolia plate. The Anatolia plate pushes pushes against the Aegean plate, and there is the compression going on, resulting in strong earthquakes all the way up to Greece. The magnitude 6 earthquake is a bit different because the Africa plate pushes against the Eurasia plate. We have the Calabrian arc here, and that's the direct mechanism for the stronger seismic activity in southern Italy. And here we see at the Hellenic arc, there's Crete, there's the Arabian plate also pushing against the Aegean plate. There can be strong earthquakes from time to time. The largest earthquake that we know of was in the year 365. About 8.5 is the estimate. There was a tsunami reaching all the way up to Alexandria, very devastating. This is a very dynamic area. And also we have stress building up in the Levant. Here this is the Dead Sea transform. And we know in 2023 we had these devastating earthquakes at the East Anatolia Fault, and scientists have already measured a buildup of Coulomb stress along this part of the Arabia plate. That is the Dead Sea transform. So it is not a matter of if, but when a large earthquake is going to occur here along the Dead Sea transform. There's also not subduction directly, well, sort of. There is a fault running here south of Cyprus. There can be stronger seismic activity. It doesn't happen often, but it is not free of larger earthquakes. And then, like I said, the Hellenic arc and the Aegean Sea as well, there can be larger earthquakes, high magnitude 7 earthquakes. That is possible. Contrary to what happened in 2023, because there was a seismic increase there in the magnitude 4 range, an obvious seismic increase which allowed me to issue a warning specifically for that region, the East Anatolia Fault. What we see now is stronger seismic activity throughout the region from Italy all the way up to the Black Sea. So where's the next larger earthquake going to occur? That's difficult to say. It could be the North Anatolia Fault, it could be the Levant, Cyprus, it could be the Aegean Sea, it could be Crete. It's been a long time since a really large earthquake happened there. There is a possibility. It could be Western Turkey. It depends on where the stress is the strongest, where the fault has reached the tipping point. We don't know that. We cannot measure that. So there are quite some candidates here, even southern Italy. So it's difficult to say exactly which spot is going to have the next larger earthquake. We also don't know when that is going to happen. Yes, this can be precursor activity. It could be in the next week, but it may take some time as well. We don't know that. So this is what we had in recent days here. Notable seismic activity, and this is really something to keep in mind. Preparedness is key. So let's have a look at what we're going to have in the coming time frame up until the 22nd of March. We have some lunar convergence that happened yesterday, and we already saw a 6.3 here with that lunar peak. Most notably, we have a convergence of planetary geometry on the 15th. That is Earth in alignment with Mercury and Mars, and at the same time Venus at the right angle with Mercury and Mars as well. This is something that we should look at in the solar system. This is very significant convergence here. Earth in alignment with Mercury and Mars can be critical, but especially the right angle that Venus makes here, also with Mercury and Mars, that makes this convergence pretty critical, and we could easily see a higher 6 to 7 magnitude earthquake as a result of this convergence. And then we have lunar geometry coming up basically from the 15th to the 19th. We have the most critical convergence, lunar geometry on the 16th. And then we have lunar geometry and planetary geometry converging on the 17th. Also worth mentioning, especially the moon in alignment here with Mars. That is pretty critical. We also see Venus, Mercury, Jupiter in a right angle, and also Sun, Mercury, Jupiter at the right angle. So we have quite some right angle geometry in this time frame. Most critical, I think, is what happens on the 15th. But let's have a look what's going to happen on the 17th as well. Earth just had the alignment with Mercury and Mars. Then we have the moon aligning with Mercury and Mars on the 17th, and especially the moon's alignment with Mars. That is going to be significant because of Mars' involvement in the planetary geometry on the 15th. Venus in a right angle with Jupiter and Mercury, not too critical by itself, but it is part of this convergence, makes it more critical. And then the Sun making right angle with Mercury and Jupiter as well. Not so significant on itself, but again, it is the convergence that counts. So this is also something to keep in mind here. Again, I emphasize the moon's conjunction here with Mars. Then on the 19th, that's the new moon converging with a conjunction, a lunar conjunction with Saturn and Neptune as well. Critical convergence there too. So basically, I think from the 16th to the 20th, that's the time to really be on extra alert, because the convergence that we see here is going to result in stronger earthquakes, these bursts of strong earthquakes, like the higher 5 magnitude and borderline 6 earthquakes, but there can definitely be a stronger one in there. In a worst case scenario, higher 6 to 7 magnitude, definitely possible, possibly around the 16th, but it could happen after the moon's alignment with Mars, and then we're talking about around the 19th, 18th, 19th, 20th. It's a bit difficult to say. It's not a single peak that we can look at and then say, okay, following that peak we're going to have a burst of stronger earthquakes. We have multiple convergences going on from the 15th to the 19th, so I'd say be on extra alert from the 16th to the 20th. And then we look a little bit at what's going to happen on the 22nd here. Earth in alignment with the Sun and Neptune, and at the same time Mars and Venus and Jupiter. That's a day later, early on the 23rd. And I will cover that in the next update. Check out the latest updates on our website and in our social media. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time.